Security researchers spend years hunting for zero-day vulnerabilities in thousands of lines of C++ code. Yet, in the remote district of Jamtara, attackers have found that a simple phone call can be more effective at bypassing a bank's defenses. This is Jamtara. In these rural villages, operators run industrial-scale phone scams, reaching targets across the globe using basic smartphones and a deep understanding of human behavior. This is a human-in-the-middle attack. Instead of trying to crack the encryption on a digital vault, the attacker focuses on the person with access, manipulating them into authorizing a transaction they never intended to make. We are breaking down the three-step framework Jamtara operators use to bypass modern security perimeters without writing a single line of code. These attacks work because they target behavioral patterns that cannot be updated like software. They find the vulnerabilities in how we are hardwired to respond to crisis and authority. The process begins with a lead harvest. Operators rarely call at random. They purchase black market spreadsheets containing names, phone numbers, and the specific banks where victims hold their money. When a caller correctly identifies your specific bank, they leverage the weight of institutional authority, represented by symbols like this seal. It creates an immediate sense of legitimacy. Attackers use this stolen data as a psychological anchor. By proving they already know who you are, they neutralize your initial skepticism before the actual theft begins. Most modern banking security relies on one-time passwords as a final defense. However, Jamtara operators don't need to break the code. They simply hijack how the code is delivered. In a verification proxy attack, the operator initiates a transfer on their own device using the victim's credentials. This triggers the bank's server to send a legitimate authorization code directly to the victim's phone. While the code is in transit, the attacker tells the victim their account has been frozen and that they must read back a deblocking code to save their funds. The victim sees a real message from their real bank. Under pressure, they read the code aloud, unknowingly providing the final authorization the attacker needs to empty the account. If a target seems more tech-savvy, attackers pivot to screen mirroring. They convince the victim to download a support app like AnyDesk, which allows them to view the victim's phone remotely. The attacker frames this as a digital assistant session. Once they have a live feed of the screen, they trigger an authorization code and simply watch it appear in the victim's notification bar. As security measures become more complex, they often create friction for the user. Attackers exploit this by posing as a guide, leading the victim through the very steps meant to protect them until the defense is deactivated. For high-value targets, the goal is a total account takeover. This is achieved through a technique known as SIM swapping. This digital crime is often finalized in a physical location, like this retail store. An attacker uses gathered personal details to impersonate the victim, convincing a clerk to issue a replacement SIM card for a lost phone. The victim's only warning is a sudden loss of cellular service. Their phone becomes a paperweight. At that moment, every security code for banking, email, and social media is rerouted to the attacker's handset. SIM swapping bypasses digital defenses through a simple face-to-face conversation. It transfers total control of a person's digital identity to the attacker without a single firewall being breached. The Jamtara framework is successful because it targets three specific human reactions: our tendency to trust authority, our panic during a crisis, and our confusion when dealing with complex security steps. We often think of security in rigid physical terms, like a guard with a metal detector. But these traditional perimeters are useless against psychological manipulation. In the modern threat landscape, firewalls and passwords are no longer the primary boundary. Identity has become the new perimeter. Even the most sophisticated encryption fails when the person who holds the access credentials can be convinced to share them. To survive this shift, we have to look past the technical barriers and focus on the person at the center of the system. We must learn to see the invisible threats of deception before the next call comes in.